This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's pod. This is a show for the week of June 5th, 2023. We discuss if Disney sharing the background details of Tiana'S Bayou adventure is backfiring. It may be, may not be. We'll find out. Plus, we talk about predictions for Genie Plus changes in 2024. Our top 3 best uses of table service credits, and I regret not being able to do this first because Phil took all of my answers, but we'll find out why later. And our DBC engagement on how we would change the dining plan to work for us. And I've got a lot of feedback on that. And it was a pretty good discussion on Discord, actually. So
yeah, there was a lot of engagement on this topic this week, so that's good.
But first, what's going on in our Disney World, Phil? What are we talking about on Discord?
Yeah. So there was a lot of talk about the Disney dining plan in general. If you recall from our episode last week, we did our predictions for what was going to be announced because we recorded like the day before it opened up for bookings and stuff like that. Well, we have the details now. And obviously the big kind of missing component was the pricing for them. And as a reminder, the Disney dining plan, 2 options will be available, either the quick service plan or the regular Disney dining plan, and they can be added to packages with arrivals that are starting on January 9th, 2024. So the details that came out, the quick service plan, for adults this year will be $57. A child will be $23.83. That compares to the last time it was around was adults were $55 and a child was $26. So those are pretty close, only a couple buck more for the adults and child's actually a couple dollars less. Keep in mind there's one less snack credit this time.
Yep.
But for the regular Disney plan, which comes with 1 table service, 1 quick service, and a snack each day, the adults are now up to $94.28. A child is $29.69, and that compares to in the past it was adults were $78 and the child was $30.51. So the child actually came down $1, but the adults went up by almost, or actually more than $16. So that's quite a bit of increase. And if you remember, we sort of went through kind of some sample plans last week and kind of what our predictions were. I thought the childs would go up a little more than it did. It actually came down, but the adults would only go up to $89. It went up almost $5 more than my prediction. And I think it just, I appreciate Disney actually bringing down the children's one and not increasing it that much. I mean, it really shows more than ever. It's great for families with a couple kids that are 9 or under, and you're going to do a bunch of character meals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's really hard, I think, for adults to get anything close to value out of it. So I have the question here. I guess, Jason, just share your thoughts in general. And then now that we know the price point, is there any scenario where you would consider adding this to a trip?
First, I'm not sure I would ever add the dining plan previously if I had to pay for it straight out of pocket, because we always got it with like almost everybody else with the package deals and stuff like that, free dining. Now that I have a 10-year-old, I would never pay for this because even though my daughter loves good food, at 10 years old, I'm not paying adult prices for her. That's absolutely ridiculous. I really wish there was like a medium, like she needs more than a kid's meal, but she's not taking advantage of the alcohol that helps bring the value to that plan, obviously. And I'm not giving her like a milkshake at like every meal either. That's just like too much. One thing I realized, and this shocked me, and it actually surprised Matt Beto when I brought it up on the WDW Magic forums. Apparently, previously, you were able to get a beer or a glass of wine with the quick service credit, which I never knew about, which makes me kind of angry in retrospect that all those beers were not drank at Disney World back then. But whatever evidence, I don't think so. Just basically, if it's just me at what is the adult? $90-something.
$94.28.
$94.28. So I know you did some math where, like, if you go to Tusker House, you go to Satulu's Canteen, and you get this you're breaking even at that point. But not every day are you getting a Tusker House dinner, right? Tusker House
Yeah.
is what was it dinner, like $50-something, $60-something dollars, and it varies
59
between.
59 for adults, and then that's added. And then if you added getting like a sangria or a drink, that was 12. So that brings that meal up to 71.
But how often are you
Right.
having like a $70 meal at Walt Disney World if you're not doing character meals?
Right.
Right. You would have. I mean, most entrees are somewhere between $25 and $40 plus a drink that gets you to 50. You got to make up that $40 somewhere else. You're not doing that with a quick service and a snack.
Yep.
So, it's like as much as I didn't use a lot of snacks was on the dining plan, like I had leftover type of stuff. I certainly won't have any leftover with this, and I don't like having like, well, here's your one snack for the day. You can have it. When you had two, it was kind of like, here's your snack for the day. Oh, and maybe we get a bonus one later or something because I didn't use my credits that day or something else like that. So, no, I don't think there's value in this whatsoever. That's to say, does it mean that you raise the price on it so that when they give it away for free as a promo, it has a good, quote unquote, good value to it? I don't know. The quick service one looks actually not too bad.
Yeah, and the other thing is, obviously, we'll probably see food pricing go up too. Obviously, the analysis I did last week is with current pricing, so if everything goes up 10, 20%, then maybe it looks a little bit better. But yeah, I'd mapped out, you go to the Rose and Crown and you get, kind of the Scotch egg for appetizers, the bangers, the mash for your main, and a pint of beer. That's only $47.50. You go to the Connections Eatery, you get a pizza for 11 something, and even one of the shakes there, you're only at like 18 or so. It's like that was a lot of food, and you're only coming to like $72 total. You're still like $20 short of like what you're paying per day. So makes it a little tough at the current pricing. So
I mean, it was tough previously, but with character meals and stuff, you actually came out like $10 ahead every single day if you did.
And
I
still think, like I said, if you have a couple kids that are under 10 and you're doing character meals and stuff like that, and you want to make that kind of a focus of your trip, and you want that prepaid element, I still think it can work out. It's just harder if you're not.
You have to do a character meal every day for it to work. You'll break even basically at that point. But apparently this scales better when you have children because the kids are only like $30 versus what they used to be. So you're practically saving money, right? 20%, as Disney said.
I know, that's what they said,
right? Whatever. So that's pretty good. I don't know. I just, to me, this whole thing seems silly. I'm very, very scared of what Disney prices are going to be in 2024. I'm not ready to go back this summer, and this might be the last time I actually get a not crazy expensive, just slightly expensive vacation opportunity at Disney World. Because I mean, we were talking about this in Discord, and now this is a giant tangent about money again, as usual on the show. But somebody was looking at, because people were booking their 2024 vacations because they came online like 6 days ago, like last Tuesday. Somebody was looking. I looked up March tickets. I picked somebody was talking about March. So I picked March 12th. What would the tickets cost? They're $150 something in like the middle of March. Yeah. To me, that's absolutely beyond crazy. Like for a family of 5, you're looking at, what is it? I can't do the math in my head. It's $750 a day. Would that before tax? Just to get my kids in the park one day, and the only time you get to see an inexpensive ticket, meaning like $105, I think was at a 6 or 7 day ticket package.
Yeah. In the past, it used to be once you got to like 4 days or especially 5 days, it dropped off. Now you kind of have to get to day 6, day 7 for that benefit to come.
I don't know how people afford that. I mean, like the tickets now are like $100 if you do the whole 4 ticket package. I guess that's a good, that doesn't seem like a deal to me, but I guess that is a good deal at this point.
It's kind of one of those tough things because in a vacuum, if you just look at what you get for that $150, there's a lot of enjoyment. There's a full day with entertainment and a trip, blah, blah, blah. But then when you multiply times your family times 4 or 5 days, and all of a sudden you're at, $2,500 just to get in the gates of the parks. And it's like, it's hard to do a trip for a family at a reasonable price.
I mean, like you could compare it to like an NFL game. Like I might bring my son, we're both big football fans, to a game this year, but it's like one game, and I'm going to try to scalp tickets like the last minute, right, and get them cheaper. Or a Broadway show, but you're not going. When you go to
5
New York,
days
you're not
in a row.
You're not going to 5 Broadway shows, right?
Right.
So I mean, like you gotta. To me, it's like you gotta balance. Like you buy tickets. What if the Broadway show, like if something broke backstage and they couldn't put on the show, you get your money back. Yeah. But Rise of the Resistance goes down and Terror Terror's down and Rock and Roller Coaster's under maintenance. You're not getting your money back for going to Hollywood Studios. So to me, as much as I could appreciate that argument, I don't subscribe to it because I think they're different in context of like a week-long vacation versus like
I
something
think
you can
it's
do for
the
the day.
week-long thing that because even comparing it to other theme parks, like we went to Dollywood last year, and the park, the tickets were definitely a little bit cheaper, but they were still like $80 or something like that. And
That's half the cost, though. That's half the cost at this point.
half
You
the
got to
cost of
realize
that.
that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess comparing it to this year, where I was like, well, it's, $80 versus 120 or 110 or something like that.
Not
And
anymore.
I think I felt there was a difference that you got a lot more for your money at Disney, but you're not going for a week to you're not multiplying that Dollywood ticket by 5 or 6 times. Like that's
And
where
you're
it
also
really
not
starts
staying at a
adding up.
$400 a night hotel either
Yeah.
if you're staying on property. Anyway, enough depressing stuff. I would not buy the dining plan. You're not a dining plan fan at all anyway,
Right.
so your answer is
Yeah, the only
because we
scenario
know
I was
it.
trying to think of, and this was probably before, and we'll get into it a lot more with the engagement topic for like kind of ways to tweak it. But I had played in the past where if we did a split stay, you can get the dining plan for just one part of your split stay. So you could kind of do like a 2 or 3 day stretch where you're kind of more like, we'll do all our character meals then or whatever. And then the other part is more like attraction heavy or whatever. But outside of that, and even now,
But you're
I
not
think it's
saving
too
money
much
though.
Yeah,
That's
you're
the
still
problem.
not really saving money. Before, in the past, you kind of could if you were doing all character meals and stuff at the old pricing. Now you're kind of just breaking even. So
Yeah, if you have kids between 10 and 18 or 10 and 21, forget it. It's not worth it. Not worth it at all. Unless you can convince a cast member to give you your 16-year-old kid's beer to you so you can have a second one at dinner. I don't know.
I don't think they're allowed. But
No, they're not.
at least I know usually they have to hand the drink to the person who ordered it, and they can't hand it to a 16-year-old. So like your wife could order a drink and then hand it to you. But
well, that's what we did last time when I couldn't have a beer. But go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Moving on.
Moving on.
This was, I thought, was interesting. This past Thursday, June 1st, Epcot had their first after hours event, the hard ticket event. And one of the things that was interesting about it was how they were running Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Excuse me. They were running it as a standby queue. So there's no virtual queue, no ILL or anything like that. Just get in line and wait. Now, obviously, it's a much smaller crowd that's there for that. But it's just interesting. Is this, them testing it out with that smaller crowd, or is it just this is how they're going to run it for after hours events? This isn't how they ran it for the extra evening hours for deluxe guests.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little different. And I don't know if this is just the first night, so everybody was trying to do it, but it was running like a 45 to 60-minute wait, kind of pretty consistently through the night. Everything else was at like 15 minutes or less. So do you think that's a good use of after hours time, standing in a long line versus, just doing the virtual queue during the day?
I don't. It really depends. Is this like your first time going, second time going? Are you taking advantage of like the after hours to do extra attractions type of thing? So maybe it is, you're not going to Epcot during the day. You chose to do the after party type of thing. I think that's the only thing that depends.
Yeah, I was just trying to think because
I don't know.
It costs $129 to do the after hours. You can get in at 7, but the specific sort of party hours are only from 10 to 1. So it's like 3 hours. Do you want to use up a third of that with one ride? And it kind of just made me think, if it's 45 to 60 minutes now with that very limited crowd, if they turned it on to a standby during the day, how long are those queues going to be? So I guess maybe it's just making me appreciate the virtual queue for
I like the virtual queue. I get it that people complain that they can't go more than once on a day, but I like the virtual. I like being able to show up, get like a third, 20 to 40 minute wait, and we're good to go. And I like that. I think the only change they can make, in my opinion, is you can go on multiple times, but you have to do it in each drop. So you get one in the morning, you can get one at 1 o'clock again. It resets for everybody. That's the only thing. Is it good use for after hours event? No, I don't think so. Unless you get there at 7, you kind of do all the festival stuff, and then you do some more fun things, and then you're going on Guardians.
Yeah, and to your point, obviously, if this is the only time you're going to Epcot, it's your only chance, then you kind of have to do it. But I guess I was comparing it to, just because this is now an extra time on top of maybe your regular Epcot day, would you spend a third of your party doing this, or would you do other stuff during it?
I personally wouldn't, because I've been on it a bunch.
Yeah.
But it depends on the person. I don't know.
Yep.
But the $120 is probably just as much as getting into the park normally. So it's like maybe it's what 7 to 1 a.m. is what, like 7 hours. So it's a long day anyway if you get there at 7.
If you get there at 7, yeah, for sure. So the last topic, we're going to talk about another sort of rumor or predictions type thing. Is that we know they said come 2024 they are going to modify the Genie Plus setup. They haven't said the specifics of it, but they said they've heard from guests that they don't like the having to get up at 7 a.m. and book your first one. They want some pre-planning element to it. I know our friend Matt Pato said he's heard some, insider things, anything's on the table. He said from 1 day to 30 days in advance. So I thought it would be an interesting discussion of what would we like to see, knowing that, there's the old Fast Pass Plus, which was you could book 3 ahead, either 30 or 60 days. Genie Plus, obviously it's one at a time starting day of. What would we like to see, or what do we think maybe could be sort of best of both worlds?
So there's a couple of different questions, right? What would I like to see and what would be the best of both worlds are completely two different answers. What would I like to see? I want the same Genie Plus functionality, because if I can ignore price and having to wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, I love Genie Plus. It gives me the flexibility that I want, and I absolutely enjoy it. What I want is I want to be able to buy Genie Plus for whatever the rate is for my whole vacation. I do not want to buy it once a day, because if I have to end up buying it once a day, I'm making a decision: do I spend $60 at 6:50 in the morning, or do I not? And usually the answer is going to be no, and I'm going to go back to sleep. So 2, if I could buy it ahead of time like I did for my last trip, I will probably end up. Just tack it on. There's another $500. There you go, Disney. You got my money. 2, I think you should be able to book one attraction. Give me a number: 30, 60, 120. I don't really care. X amount of days before your vacation. So you're not trying to get that 7 a.m. drop like right off the bat. When can you book? Can you book your whole vacation at the same time? Whatever. I don't know. It worked with Fast Pass Plus. Yes, people complain about people with longer vacations and them getting beat up. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is on that. Maybe there's another solution, but I don't want to do the day before. Yep. So instead of waking up at 7, what do I have to do? Wait for 8 o'clock and make sure I'm on, and everybody else? That's kind of nonsense too. It's got to be enough of a distance before the vacation, so at least I have some things set and I don't have to rush and feel agitated in the morning if I didn't get something. I imagine that at this point, Disney's basically just wiping the board clean with all this nonsense. I guarantee it's just going to be paid version of Fast Pass Plus. It's going to be absolutely identical. They're going to have wasted all this money on everything, and they're not going to use it whatsoever. And I think that's what they're going to do, because that's what they should have done in the first place. First of all, if they needed to charge somebody for it. Most of the time, Genie, which we never talk about, was supposed to plan your day, help you pick reservations, tell you which attractions, basically a touring plan for the parks. And I'm pretty sure that's basically been dropped for any kind of support.
I think it's still there, but I don't
know. It's there,
yes. Who uses it. Yeah. Or
no one really uses
promote it or anything anymore.
They don't promote it, exactly. And it's kind of like maybe you'll pop up with a dining reservation, hey, you can go eat here or check this out. It's like a little pop-ups, but no one uses it functionally, I don't think. So I think they're just going to chuck up another $1 billion of loss. I mean, this is the year of loss, right? Yeah. So I think they're just going to be okay, Fast Pass Plus. I don't think we're going to actually see an announcement for this until they actually know. It's going to be not until later in the year, right? So we're going to get all the bad news out right now. They're not going to use this ammunition to kind of, let's pave over that Epcot still looks terrible. Let's pave over all these other kind of Star Cruisers, all the bad stuff. They're just going to lump all the bad stuff together over the next couple months. If there's any more bad stuff they have to announce, and then starting with the new fiscal year, a new turn to 2024, because I think they're already sucking up that their fiscal year 2023 is just going to be dreadful with attendance. They're going to use a whole string of good stuff so they can have a running string of good news for the next, 6 to 8 months starting in October, because they've got nothing coming to any of the parks in Florida. So they got to have some kind of string of good buzz for the parks. And I think they're going to use giving people back what they used to have for the parks as good news. Well, most of us cynical folks are going to be rolling our eyes and say, I remember when, and all this other type of stuff. So it's going to be one of those. What do you think?
I
I
think
just rambled on for like 10
yeah,
minutes. I didn't give you time to speak. I'm
I
sorry.
think pretty similar. I think maybe it won't be quite as far in advance because a lot of people are like, I don't know, 60 days out exactly where I want to go. The one thing I would like to see is maybe only one attraction you book ahead of time, because I know in the past it was
Yep.
three, but then they had to go to like tiering in the non-Magic Kingdom parks, and like then people were booking like ones they didn't even care about just to get them gone so that they could book another tier one. And like I'd like to get rid of all that tiering mess. Like
Yeah.
maybe just have one ahead, but at least now you have that first attraction, you know what time it is, and you kind of can plan your day from there versus having to wake up at 7, not know exactly what you're going to get, and then having to kind of plan on the fly. So
I just want to do it for every day before ahead of, even if it's
yeah,
a week before I arrive,
yeah,
I get to book everything. That's fine as long as
yeah,
I get that heading. I want to avoid having to buy it every day that I want it, and I want to avoid the 7 a.m. rush to trying to click the buttons as fast as possible. I'll
yeah,
still do that with individual lightning lanes if they don't want to do me, but the Genie Plus stuff, the lightning lanes, I want that done, and I don't want the 7 a.m. crunch.
yeah.
Let
And
me let me crunch at like 11 o'clock in the morning if the park opens at 9.
yeah, and I think it was a mistake to get rid of the pre-booking, because I think, like to your point, people would rather spend the money ahead of time, whether
Mm-hmm.
you give them a savings by doing that at all or not, whatever. But people do it then. They're not having to think day of. There isn't going to be as much focus on like, oh, it's up $3 today. It's down to like, it just feels very like penny pinching and nickel and diming when it's like changing every day and whether you get it or not. It's like just have it almost like you add on park
Memory
hoppers or
maker.
not or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, like when you're already spending $5,000, what's another X amount of dollars that's not 1,000, right? To
right.
get
That you're
like
going to be paying out over time or whatever anyway, versus having to do it day of.
because I know I was like, all right, let's just pay for it now, and then again, no one wants to pay more money to Disney while they're on vacation. Right? That's why the Disney plan is the dining plan is popular. But
So we'll
I
see.
think we're done with that one. Enough about giving Disney more money.
All right. But if you have thoughts on what you're hoping to see for Genie Plus in the future, why don't you let us know on our social media accounts? We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all at the DBC Pod. And of course, our Discord server. Lots of good conversation this past week on the dining topic.
Yes.
Moving on to the topic, I almost had this in the news, but I think it was worthy of kind of making it our own topic. So Disney announced this week there was sort of a session they held in New Orleans. They invited a number of influencers and stuff like that. I saw Craig Williams from the Diz Boards was
I
there
saw that
filming
too.
stuff and stuff. So basically, just another hype session trying to get out more details around what they're changing for Tiana's Bayou Adventure with the work being done on Splash. It's now closed at Disneyland too, and so they wanted to get out more sort of information around it. The bit of it was around music. They said they're going to be working with award-winning artists PJ Morton and Terrence Blanchard to kind of make. And they said, I guess there'll be a new song, but then there'll also be new renditions of fan favorites from the film. The other thing is they had a Q&A, and people were talking about, basically trying to get at, okay, how many audio animatronics are there really going to be in there? And they started talking about they know there'll be 17 new characters that are introduced for the ride, and all of them will be represented as audio animatronics, plus what they call their hero characters, Tiana, Naveen, Lewis, and Mama Odie at least, and they will all have multiple figures. So, when they're talking about dozens of animatronics, and our understanding for what we're hearing is at least those hero characters will each have at least one or two kind of high-end audio animatronics. So I think that's definitely something people want to hear. But a lot of the chatter was all about these other little bits of minutia that they're getting out there, where it's been whether it's been this is related to some co-op that Tiana's starting, or it's going into a salt mine, or they brought up today about, or this past week about representation about Tiana's father being a World War I vet, and like they're going into all this like backstory minutia that, in an effort to be really earnest and like careful about this, it feels like they're not talking about any of the fun
Yeah.
related with the attraction, and it's kind of turning, I think, a lot of people off because they're not talking about any of the actual ride. Now, maybe they're saving that for D23 and then that'll be fine, but it's almost like less might be more at this point. They're almost trying too hard. And so that was sort of my discussion topic was, you, Disney does this a lot, whether it's with concept art or whatever. It's like, it's great that everything has a backstory, but you don't need to tell us every little detail before we even know what the bulk of the ride's going to be. So
Yeah, I think this is mostly like overblown.
Yep.
Right. I get it. Everything. This is all silly. Like all this back. It's like the same. Like you after going to Dinoland USA, you actually Google it, and there's like this huge backstory. You're like, oh, I guess there's these people. Like, no, you would never know going to that park, the backstory of like an actual dinosaur dig and a museum, and then like somebody that had like a pop up like carnival, and it was like a story. I'm like it. No one cares. But ultimately, they're making a big fuss about this, and people that are Uber fans are gonna be on message boards like they are right now. It's like, oh, they're gonna make it like, why do I want World War One to be in the ride? This doesn't make any sense. It's like all of this, and you had a good post on WT Magic about this in this thread, and you're just like, it's all this stuff is gonna be like one newspaper clipping in the queue, and that's all it's gonna be. It's gonna be a picture, but what the Imagineers are doing, they're just doing all of their research because they do great research on figuring out how to make. That's why their rides are fantastic because they pay attention to all the little details. But they're just basically, it's just a giant info dump of like, look how smart we are that we figured all of this stuff out. I mean, like, great. You probably get paid good money to be smart. You're supposed to be creative. And while I mean, I appreciate the info dump, like it's something I could either consume or ignore. I don't get riled up about it. It's just like, okay. I think it's silly that you're inviting a bunch of influencers. I hate that word to New Orleans just to like learn about it. But just like they're going to write about jazz music and culture from the 20s and how it impacted like that's nice, but ultimately people are going to ignore all of this anyway, and they're just going to wait for the ride to open, and they're going to see, oh, fun, that ride looks pretty awesome. Do you want to see the animatronics? Do you want to see the stuff that's inside? So at this point, I think it's just wasted dollars because it's not going to move the needle in any other way. And the people that are crying about it, I think they're such a loud Uber minority of people that it's going to be like, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah, I certainly agree. It's getting overblown, and in the end, 5 years from now, nobody's gonna care if they do a good job with the ride. It does kind of feel like maybe they're giving out the information in the wrong order by leading with all this like kind of minutia, where a lot of times you don't find out the back. There's a ton of backstory to say Big Thunder Mountain, but unless you like go to some of these like D23 conventions or look it up online, you don't know it. They didn't lead with it. They led with it being like a fun roller coaster and showed you like going through the mountain and stuff like that. So
this
I
would
just
have
feel
been
like they're maybe overdoing it and like trying to fill up empty like silence with something because they don't have a lot of other news to talk about, and I think they're just kind of focusing on the wrong parts right now.
Oh no, I agree with you. Like from a marketing perspective, I think it's just wasted time because no one's going to care about it. This could have been like an awesome coffee table book somewhere that you sell, and then maybe like a Disney Plus like Imagineering special episode, and you can kind of learn about like in the context of like seeing people come down the hill and you go through a virtual ride, and then you kind of intersplice like some of this backstory stuff.
Yeah.
That's a cool way to do it,
Exactly.
but not like in a vacuum. To me it's just wasted effort because it does nothing. It just makes people ask the wrong questions. Like, is her father from World War One going to be in the ride? No, he's not. But it's part of like Tiana'S like mental upbringing. It's how she learns and strives and works hard and all these other great messages. But it's just a flume ride. Like, we want to have fun.
we want to see the flume part, not the backstory part. Yeah.
But no, I think it's rather silly.
The one other thing I did want to add, and this is probably another example of something that's getting buried because of the focus on this, was they did ask them kind of flat out, like, you're replacing an iconic attraction. Like, how do you feel about that? Do you feel the pressure? And one of the Imagineers working on it, Ted Robledo, I hope I'm saying his name correctly, was like flat out like, I want to talk about this. Like, I know people love this attraction. I love the attraction. I grew up like riding it as a teenager too. Like, and so we really went in saying, what is good about this attraction? What do they love about it? And like, they're going to build on that and make what was good, or at least their attempt is to make what was good about it better. What was better, great, So I think that should hopefully inspire people. Obviously they need to deliver on that. But I think that at least encourages me that they're recognizing the ride system was amazing and stuff like that. And like, they know that, and they're not gonna, hopefully they'll build off that and stuff like
Don't get me wrong. I think this attraction is going to be absolutely phenomenal. And after everybody goes on it, they're not going to forget about Splash, right? No one's ever going to forget. But it's just going to be the newest ride, and it's going to be absolutely amazing because all these animatronics. When was the last time there was this many animatronics in an attraction? Not even Rise has this many animatronics in it. I think it's going to be absolutely because now you're up and close versus Rise, where you're kind of at maybe like 20 feet away type of distance. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic, and I think they're going to nail it. I have no doubt about every attraction that they've put out in the last, I don't know, 5-10 years has been amazing. Outside of Alien Swirling Saucers, where they just themed up a spinner ride.
Yeah,
or
I think
something
some.
else
People are worried a little bit about some of the redos. The people don't necessarily feel like Frozen was forced into the existing space and wasn't great and stuff.
I
like
said
that.
last 5 to 10 years. When was Frozen? Frozen was what?
That was within 10 years for sure.
Ah, darn! I'm thinking back to Pandora then.
Okay,
right.
I agree though. I think sometimes people
16?
focus on the misses when I think there's been way more hits than misses.
Well, I mean, Frozen After Dark was definitely shoeborn. That should have been they deserve a really good attraction at Walt Disney World, but they were caught on their butts how well that movie did, and they had no plan for it. So that was on them. I would love to get the Frozen Land or whatever they're calling it somewhere in Walt Disney World.
Yep,
that would be
for sure
phenomenal. But we never have good things in Orlando. So that is what it is. Are we done with this? Because this leads directly into our takes.
I think so. Yeah, we're talking about that's sort of a hot take or what things people are discussing or debating or complaining about related to Disney on the internet. And our takes that Jason came up this week is, what are the bigger overblown Disney internet drama stories that we can recall? So which do you think were overrated, properly rated, or underrated?
I mean, there's never ending supply of ideas for this, right? There's always somebody angry at Disney for something, right? It's the wrong size cookies, or there's too many cupcakes, or whatever.
There's too many sprinkles on my cookies.
Too many darn sprinkles. So basically, the way I did this, and I let Phil interpret it on his own, and he first interpreted way wrong on what I was asking. We won't go into it, but it was hilarious. We had a good laugh about it. I was confused when he started. I was like, because I typoed a bunch of things because I was doing it on my phone. In any case, it's basically, was the outrage or the fake outrage on Twitter, message board, Facebook group, or wherever you're on, was it justified, or it was kind of like, I don't know what you guys are explaining about. So that from your opinion, obviously. So my overrated one, I've got two. And one of them, if you could have guessed already, was the Tiana Bayou's Adventure. Everybody's up in arms about all this stuff. I'm like, they're just describing the queue and why they chose red instead of blue for something. Don't worry about it. But the one thing that I always thought was really, really overrated was, I guess it's almost 5 years ago now at this point, were the instituted parking fees at on-site guests for hotels.
Yep.
I think it was 2017, 18 timeframe. I want to say
around then. I would say at least 17 probably.
I thought it was completely overrated and overblown. The vast majority of guests got to Orlando with Magical Express on a plane, and it did not it impacted some people. Yes, $25, but you still didn't pay to go into the parks, and you had your car and stuff like that. I get why an extra, I don't know, $150 for Disney is what it is, but you got to pay parking fees on almost every other hotel anyway. So yes, it sucks, right? I get it. You're paying more money to Disney. But I think the level of outrage for $150 for a 6-night stay versus all the other stuff that they've done was let's bring it down. You could be upset, but how about we be disappointed upset, not outraged upset, right? Let's dial it down a little bit. Yeah. So I thought that was overrated. What is your overrated one? Unless you want to comment on my.
Well, just to comment on that real quick, I get where you're coming from the money standpoint. I was pretty annoyed by it, but for the reasoning they gave, when
annoyed is fine.
When they said they were doing it because it was industry standard, and I hated that excuse, because Disney should be setting the standard or being above the standard, not following the industry standard. And of course, industry standard also is providing an included breakfast and stuff like that, and you don't do any of that. So you're kind of picking and choosing what industry standard is. So that aspect of it annoyed me.
That's valid. Don't get me wrong. I was annoyed with it too, but annoyed is the right term. It's not like the Walt Disney World is the worst company in the world. I'm never going back again, et cetera, et cetera. Let's bring it down a little bit. What is your overrated one?
So speaking of people saying they were never going back again, mine was that there were park reservations, or there still are park reservations. We've talked about this before on the show.
Yeah.
I get they're annoying, especially if you're a local and you just want to pop over and stuff like that. But 95% of the time, there's never an issue getting one. And for most of us that are going for our annual vacation, whatever, we know in advance pretty much always which parks we're going to which day.
You should anyway.
I know some people just want to go with the flow or whatever. So I'm not saying I like them existing where Disney tried to spin it like this was some sort of positive. I'm not going that far. I just didn't think it was that big of a deal. And I remember when there were all these polls like, what's the number one thing you would want changed at Disney World? And like a lot of people are saying, get rid of park reservation. I was like, of all the things that you could change at Disney, like that's the one. So that's why I felt that was overrated.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it has the connotation with COVID, and it was like, this is a safety issue. Then it turned into, we're enhancing your experience issue. So, like, hyper annoyed at where it came from. But, like, to me, it never impacted because I had a spreadsheet with every park I was going to. Like, it had zero impact on me.
Right.
And, like, even when we went down in December, my wife wanted to change the day, what park we were going to that day. And I put my foot down, but I looked, could I have done it anyway? It's like, no, we can't do it. We made reservations months ago. We can never change. And I kind of sheepishly looked at my phone. Could I actually do this? And I'm like, I could, because I can get, I think just one of the days I couldn't get Magic Kingdom, but every other park, I could have changed everything but it would have been annoying to do so. But no, I get it. Okay. So my properly rated outrage drama complaining was Magical Express going away. I think both of us put this as properly rated. And I will give you the floor on explaining this one because I went long on my overrated one.
Yeah, no. So I think the outrage was strong for this one, and I almost put this as underrated because I feel like at least Disney maybe doesn't appreciate it as much as
good point.
But I think this really drastically changed how a Disney vacation was for people. It used to be you could, you checked your bags at the airport and they magically showed up in your room. It made it really easy for, if a single parent was coming down with a couple kids, you just like get on the bus and you're there. You didn't have to think about transport. Your vacation started when you got to your home airport. And now people have to figure out which system am I using to get there. Do I try just doing Uber? Do I pay for a private? It's just another thing to add on, another thing to think about, and another way that it became more complicated, less easy to visit Walt Disney World. And I think Disney very much underrated that.
Absolutely. I mean, this was a properly rated outrage. Even though I probably would always be driving down now I don't want to pay the airfare for 5 people anymore these days. But even then, you mentioned with parking fees and Disney, doesn't want to meet industry standards. You want to be above them. Like this, what made Disney Vacation stand out, right? It's you got on the airport, like your vacation started, you got on the plane, you knew that you didn't have to think about anything. And all of a sudden you were going to be in the most, magical place on earth and where dreams come true and the vacation that you were always looking forward to. It started in your own airport. Like now it's like, I got to get to the airport. I got to get my bags. Like you get all the normal,
like if you're
stuff.
Going anywhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, like you got to deal with the crowds. You got to deal with getting your luggage. You got to deal with hauling it. You got 4 bags that you're pulling, and you got kids running around, and you got to deal with. Before it was like, okay, we know where we were going on the other side of the airport. All our bags are taken care of. You put on your Magic Band. You ding in at the start. It kind of got you trained on using your Magic Band, getting on a line to get on your bus, and your vacation started as soon as the doors closed on the airplane for wherever your home airport was. And that is completely gone. And it being properly rated outrage, I am still outraged for today because it took away something that made Disney stand above everything else.
Yep.
There's one more thing that got chipped away, and I'm still angry about that. Even though I would never use it, I'm still angry about it.
Yep. Agreed.
All right. So my underrated one where I think more people should be outraged about this, and I think it's completely underrated, and is that Magic Bands are not free anymore. or you don't get the $5 ones, and they don't get sent to you automatically 30 days out. And I've talked about this on the show plenty of times. It's one more bit of magic that's gone that made a Disney vacation different. And it's not because I got a free plastic band with an RFID chip in it. Okay. It has nothing to do with that. When you got those magic bands in the mail within the box, it opens it up, and like, you think like confetti shooting out of it, you're imagining it in fireworks, and it's just like, I will be at Disney in 30 days and this is going to be awesome. And I didn't have to pay for these. I just had to pick some colors. Everybody's happy. I had my name on the back of it. Now it's, oh, you want these, sir? Here's $5 and we'll ship them to you right now. Like now I got to get them and put them in my closet for 6 months before I get back. Like, that was part of the ritual of having your Disney vacation. And that's completely gone. And I know people are upset, but they're like, oh, Magic Band Plus. So I get to pick all these other ones. Like, they kind of did like I don't call it, it's not a bait and switch.
Mm-hmm.
But you could go on, and for like half the cost of it normally in the parks, you could buy a Magic Band with different characters on them and everything else like that. So you're like, oh, I got a cheap, really cool Magic Band rather than the same yellow one I get every single year. And I think people enjoyed that, but they didn't. I don't think they realize what they lost as part of the ritual of going to Disney World. At least it was for me. I mean, I know people from a different era where they went a lot or whatever, they remember, paper fast passes. There's something everybody remembers that's part of their ritual. But for me, that was my ritual.
Yep. And for mine, it's sort of two that are combined. It's all related to how Disney acted during the pandemic. I put both that they halted construction so much compared to, say, Universal, and also how many of the cast members they let go. To me, they were both signs of, I get from the financial standpoint, and I know they took on a lot of debt, so they were doing what they had to, but it just sort of showed the cockiness of Disney, that they're like, oh, well, we don't really have to go ahead and create new things. As soon as we open, people will come back. And yeah, we had to let go of a bunch of cast members, but as soon as we can rehire them, they'll be waiting at the door to come in. And they didn't recognize how hard it would be to kind of gain back somebody you lost. And so I feel like this was a bigger deal than people are giving enough credit for, or not credit, but like enough focus or attention to that. What a signal it was for the shifting mindset of Disney, and how they still haven't recovered from those decisions made then. So,
I mean, a good point to this is just as far as the construction goes, letting go of the CMs. I think there was a bit of anger over that, but people are still like worried about their own lives
Right.
with the pandemic. So it was kind of hard to get outrage at the world versus outrage at the world and other
Sure.
people getting So I think it kind of melded with that, and that's unfortunate because we all love the cast members that made our vacations better. I want to talk about the Epcot construction one because this is going to be something that's it's been tore up for who knows how many years at this point. I can't even count them. It's been 10 years, 15 years since we saw the middle. I don't remember. But what's going to happen is everybody's so used to it now that once they finally open everything, you're going to have all the influencers, all the vloggers going, look how amazing it is. It's finally open. And they're never going to comment on like, me, I'd be cynical, be like, all right, it took you 4 years to put a bunch of cement in a couple buildings. Like no one's going to be critical of Disney. They're all going to be conveniently ignoring the construction pit that was there for 4 years at that point. And they need to be held accountable. Like, okay, you have a path with a bunch of trees and running water, and you sprung for a Tafiti statue. Great. You left a really big water fountain for maybe another water fountain in the statue of Walt. You took now we have like a party area. It's like, did we need to change this over at this point? And I've seen some pictures. If they have more trees in there and it's more greenery, that's a good transformation of that part of that park. But I think everybody's going to be severely disappointed. And people hopefully are going to be asking, was this all worth it?
Yep.
Probably the quick answer.
I mean, I think it'll be nice when it's done, but it should have been done 2 years ago. I mean, it took them 5 years to build Tron, whatever. It's going to take Universal 3 years to build the entire theme park. Like it's like Disney's fallen back. They're not setting the standard. They're not going above and beyond. They're doing the minimum to get by.
I will though say this, because I'm gonna blame Bob Chapek for all of this because he's a convenient person to blame. But I think they're realizing that, and that's why I think Splash Mountain is going to be open a lot sooner than people expect. And I think because every day there's something new that's going in there, so I think that they're going to get ready. They're pushing for it because they need something for next year, and they don't want it to be November, December 2024. They want it to be like April, May of 2024 to kick off what hopefully they think is not a
I hope
worse
so.
summer than this year.
I hope you're right, and I hope at D23 we find out a whole bunch of new stuff that's coming, and it'll be done in 2 years and stuff like that. But I don't know. They lost a lot during that time, and I don't know if it's been fully appreciated.
No, but you know what I'm worried about? I'm worried about that at D23 we're going to get all these like really awesome Disneyland updates and stuff like that, and nothing for the world. And I'm going to just scratch my head because I don't know why they're investing so much in Disneyland versus Disney World, where Disney World is their largest theme park in the world that brings more people than any other place. Yet they're investing a tremendous amount of money in Disneyland, which I appreciate. But and obviously we're biased here because this is a Disney World podcast. But I don't know. That's the only thing I'm worried about. But we'll see. They're saying all the right things at this point. But I'm waiting for the shovel hit the dirt on this one. All right, so we're going to go right from that our takes to our top three. And Phil crushed me on this one because the top three best uses for table service credits on the Disney dining plan. Basically, with the dining plan coming out, it's the second dining plan centric show. Or like, what would you use your single credit on? Because at this point, I don't think any of the restaurants are worth 2 credits at this point, especially at those prices. So since you took all my answers, I literally would have listed these in the same order you did.
Okay, so maybe we'll just have one collective list.
But I have so you'll do yours.
Okay.
All of mine are just runner-ups at this point. So go ahead. What are your top three?
So my top three are Tusker House. I think you can get whatever meal it is, a really good meal with a mixture of sort of more American style food where everybody can find something, but also some nice different style African inspired food. And you get all the characters. They're in their safari outfits. And I think it's just a really good, one of the better character meals on property to begin with. And it's still only a single credit.
100%. Character meal, great food selection. That's not the same waffles and chicken and whatever that you get. It's really good. Yep. I always go if I can.
One thing that we learned with the dining plan coming up next year is, and I guess this is related to the child credit cost not going up as much, as a few of the character meals are shifting to being 2 credits. That includes storybook dining with Snow White, and it includes the princess meal at Akershus, except for breakfast. It's only so lunch and dinner are going to be 2 credits, but breakfast is still only going to be a single credit. So I think that is a great use of a single credit if you can get one. I'm assuming this
you will never be able to get one.
Very in demand.
Here's one actually I did. Speaking of breakfast, Topolitos. Is that still single credit for breakfast?
I believe so. Yeah.
So that's another
that would
one.
be a good one as well.
Add that one to the list.
And then the last one I thought of was Skipper's Canteen in Magic Kingdom.
So good.
Again, I think it's got some different food. So one of the benefits I do think of like being on the dining plan is you can, especially back when maybe it was more of a value, you felt more open to trying different things. So you didn't feel like you had to get your money's worth at that meal. And the other thing is that it has alcoholic beverages for adults, but it also has some non-alcoholic kind of fancy drinks that the kids can get.
They have cool soda flavors there too.
Yeah, so I think another way to get a little bit of added value there, even for the kids or the Disney adults that can't drink alcohol.
Yes.
There versus some other locations. So I think that's a good use of a table service credit as well.
The only problem using this only as a table service because your normal meal is like $28 to $32 there. I remember eating there.
Yeah, there's definitely some. I think there's
now.
A couple things that are a little bit more, and some of the appetizers and stuff. So it's not like, it's definitely not the best use dollar wise from food. But I think when you add in the drinks, it's a little bit better. But there are some cheaper options on there compared to some other locations.
There are. I mean, but like you could go there and have just like a very expensive like hula hands like type of meal. Like everything's in the $20 to $30 range, high 20s, low 30s for the most part. Appetizers aren't anything to write home about. There's some good options there. Yeah. But you could get, as an adult, getting like maybe a $10 drink, you're getting out of there at like $45.
Yeah.
And you're that's halfway to your dining plan total, and it just doesn't make any sense otherwise. All right, I'm just going to run down my 3. These are good options to consider. Topolinos, I totally forgot about, which would have been my number 1. Chef Mickey's is still very good. You get to go over the Contemporary. You can either ride the monorail all the way around and get there for Magic Kingdom, or you could walk. And good character interaction. The food's nothing to write home about, but it's a decent buffet, and you get to see the Fab Five, which the kids will absolutely love. I would recommend going for brunch if you can. It's a good combination of getting like pancakes and then like also you can get ribs. So I mean like a little bit of both. Hollywood and Vine. I haven't been there since pre-pandemic. The characters there were always absolutely awesome and fun. Sometimes you got a ticket. You got to meet Donald Duck at the front of the restaurant, and he last time we were there, he was like literally rolling on the floor with my kids, making fun, having a good time, doing all sorts of stuff. It's really good interactions. The food over there was like maybe mediocre at best pre-pandemic, but I've heard good things about the return, that the food has kind of stepped up its game to, instead of being mediocre, maybe it's above average at this point. So it's well worth the one dining service credit. And then the food here is terrible, but the T-Rex restaurant at Disney Springs, it's a really fun environment. It's basically Rainforest Cafe, but with dinosaurs. And if you have little kids and you're also spending just whatever it was, $29, $30 something dollars, whatever it is for the kids' dining meal, good use of their credit for that, because that's pretty good. So this is my rundown of 3. Any runners up that you can think of you want to throw out there? I know you want to pick Garden Grill. I'm surprised that's not on your list.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's another one that's a good use of the credit. Again, meeting characters for only 1 credit. I think there's definitely some at some of the resorts like Ohana. I think would be a good use of a credit. Even Steakhouse 71. I think there's some options at different places. I haven't really gone through. I don't know which of the Disney Springs ones are going to be on the list versus not. But I think there's some out there that you just have to think through. I mean, even something like Whispering Canyon, which is an all-you-can-eat type thing, you could get some good value out of that one. So depends kind of what you're looking for. But there are ways to get better value, but especially more at the older prices versus the new one. But
yeah,
I was trying to think of places that I was like, I would feel like these are one table service credits that I would be interested to eat at and want to go to, and my family would be excited for, and I think would be
fair enough.
Like if having that all-inclusive feel, I'm like, where do I want to like line up? So I was kind of looking at some ways that ways versus just dollar wise the best.
Yeah.
value.
Yep, for sure. Okay, so we're going to take that dining plan discussion, and I think we're not talking about dining plan
For a
until
while
like
after.
dining plan promo or something that comes out. But we asked the community, what changes would you make to the Disney dining plan for you to actually purchase it yourself? Because we made the assumption that no one's buying it at this price unless they were offering it for free, which was the case. So I basically had 4 options on there to kind of kickstart the argument. Obviously, you can use whatever you want, but some of the things, no, I love it, and I will always do it. No one picked that one. Price change, which is it needs to be cheaper. Can you add stuff to it? AKA just like, can I make it like, I just want a dining plan where I get 10 snack credits a day. Can I pay for that instead? So you can dine your way. Because I know a lot of people love just getting a bunch of appetizers when they eat.
Yep.
And can we do it that way rather than getting dessert and an entree? Or increase flexibility, somehow build out a plan where you never need an ADR. You can just choose the day of and get it. I don't know how we would do that, but is that something that would interest you for that cost? So that would be adding value, right?
Yep.
So not only maybe you're paying $20 more than you normally would on food for that day, which is probably the case anyway, but for that $20, you get the ability to go to any restaurant that you want as long as you make a reservation the day of 6 hours before your arrival time, right? So that might be worth $20 to some people.
Yep.
So I know people that are foodies, they would pay extra money to not have to make the reservations, 60 days in advance. So anyway, do you want to go over some of the community stuff first? Or
Yeah,
you want
maybe
to do
we'll
ours?
start there because I think some of them had some similar thoughts as to what I did want to give mention though to Ryan W, who did comment in that he's glad this came back, that he used it in 2019 and really enjoyed it. He does say he have 3 Disney kids, so I think that makes the math a little bit better.
Yes.
And it sounds like they just like to eat a lot, because he said he wished the deluxe plan came back, because he said currently you only get 2 meals a day. He would want to get 3 meals, like full meals included and stuff.
Rock and roll.
So they enjoy their eating, but yeah. So he mentioned 2019, so we'll have to see if it still makes sense at the current pricing. But did want to shout out somebody who is all for it and excited that the plan's back and sees value in it. The way
Good
he
for
does.
them.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to read them all for deals, but Doc C, Tigger 88, and TL Madden all said they don't see whatever any way of getting it at the current setup and at the current price. It just doesn't work for them, the way that they dine. Some other ideas for changes. Some of them were similar to ideas, but like just adding the more flexibility and the idea of maybe be able to just pre-buy so many meals, and then you have your whole trip to use them. So Jean L mentioned, she related it to the old ticket books, but the idea is maybe ahead of time you say, I'm going to pre-buy 5 table service and 3 quick service or whatever like that, and I have my trip to use them. I'm not like locked into like buying them exactly the way that for every single day of my trip or whatever like that. One idea that I liked, TL Madden had this, was that just give some benefits to people that are on the program. He said, maybe a discount for prepaying, which is never going to happen. But he said, maybe you could use the drink cup in the parks, but only if you're on the plan. Or you could get to the front of the line for same day seatings versus people that aren't on the plan. And I kind of like that idea. Maybe even something that on some places there's a special dessert that's only available to people on the dining plan or something like that, where it's like you get some perks by being on the dining plan that other people don't get access to. I thought was kind of an interesting idea.
So what he's saying, he wants to build another line to all the restaurants that's called a lane, and it's lightning quick.
Yeah,
is what he's
pretty
saying.
much the dining,
maybe
lightning dining line or
lane.
Something. Yeah,
I'm for it. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, other people that whether it was Lumpy, Ryan W mentioned this too, was just adding more flexibility, whether it's to the snack credits, whether it's to just kind of how you use things, just not make it so rigid in kind of what you order. And I think that sort of flows into some of my points. The other thing that a number of people mentioned, that I had in there too, was the Disney adult aspect of a 10-year-old just really makes it not work for a lot of families, whether you need to head like a tween category or something like that that's sort of in between, or even if you had the option to buy it with or without alcohol, so that took off 10 to 20 dollars a day or whatever it was. And maybe then you can buy alcohol and you get maybe more alcohol included. You could use it as your snack credit or something like that. But some way to like kind of make it a little bit more reasonable for people, who even adults who don't drink alcohol, or for those under 21 Disney adults. The other ideas that I had was, and I did want to put this, I really do like the idea of like that all-inclusive feel. Like we just went on a cruise. I loved it that you could just go to like any restaurant and kind of get whatever the heck you wanted, and you didn't have to pay for anything. It was nice. You just don't have, it doesn't feel that all-inclusive because you're limited to what you can order. It's got a structure. You still have to leave a tip at the end, stuff like that. So the idea I came up with is very convoluted and probably would never happen, but some sort of way of pre-buying points for your dining. And this way you can, maybe a snack is 1 point, an appetizer is 2 points, or, something like that, where you can kind of just eat what you want. You don't have to follow the structure of 1 entree, 1 dessert, 1 drink, like that, but it's prepaid. It just gives you some more flexibility in how you use that prepayment.
I mean, it almost works that way right now. I mean, I like a lot of these ideas. I think they really do. This has been a complaint for everybody for a very long time. They need to do like a Disney young adult dining plan.
Yeah.
So it's basically the same as the adult plan without the alcohol attached to it. Don't have the kids that if, at lunch when you're going to whatever quick service, you can get a big giant ice cream to go with it. Or a milkshake or whatever it is. And then dinner, have another milkshake. Oh, yeah, have a Mickey bar. Like, you're going to have kids vomiting all over the park because they're going to be heated and they're going to have all this sugar and milk in them. Terrible idea. So something like that. Or adults that don't drink, they don't have, they don't drink beer or wine or anything else like that. And then, but you're forcing them to like, I have to pay for this. And then I'm missing out on that value. Because some adults, they don't want a beer or they don't want a glass of wine. And most of these places don't have cocktails anyway. But you want to force them to get some like specialty drink that's either sugary or like, some people might not want that.
Even some people who do, like, they don't want it at every meal. Like we said, to get the value of it, you have to get a drink at dinner and you have to get a drink lunch, and not everybody wants to do that every day of their vacation.
So I think a big portion of that is, and also a big thing I hear this from, like, for your table service credit, and I personally don't mind this when I have it, but you have to order an entree and you get a dessert. I would love the ability to, instead of getting a dessert, can I get like a salad or a small appetizer to go with it? Because I'm not a dessert guy at all.
Sometimes you can. Some servers will permit that, especially if you're just getting like a soup or a salad. But I agree, it should be entree and appetizer or dessert, not just a dessert.
I think it should be like you go to dinner and you can get whatever you want, but you can't have like, I'll have 3 entrees and an appetizer, and it'd be like, that's your portion, right? There's have to be some rules. That's fine. But I think Disney's making enough money that if you're sitting in a sit-down meal, that people are not going to gorge themselves.
I look back on it because we did do the dining plan when it first started, and I went as a family. You know, I think it was after my father passed away, but it was with like my sister and my mom and stuff. And we got the dining plan, and that's what it was. You got an appetizer, an entree, and dessert, and a non-alcoholic drink, and tip was included. So it truly was like you go and you get up, and that's it. And oh, by the way, it was $37.99 a person.
I mean, granted, $37.99 a person back then is probably like $60 now,
right?
But
still, it's not $95, and you still have to pay tip now, and you don't get appetizer. So
I don't mind the whole tip thing, but it's nice to be able to like go down, eat, and leave. Right? That's your whole prepay thing. I'm totally with you on that. I still think there should be some more flex. I get that Disney doesn't want to add more complexity to their stuff, so that's fine, and no one's going to understand like, what kind of plan do you want? Do you want the dinner plan with an entree dessert? Do you want the dinner plan plus and add it? Like, there's too many categories, too many options, and it gets nutty. I think they should just lean on giving people a bunch of food and making them happy, because it can't be that expensive when you're spending $100 a day.
Right. If you're already up to $95 a day, what's one additional appetizer or something like that in food costs? What's that cost in Disney? $2? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And the more you get, like, what I don't understand, like, Disney needs to make money, right? They're an operation. There should be a way to figure out where you can make your normal profit on food, not like additional profit. Because the more people are happy with a good meal, they're more likely to go out and buy a second beer, or like where they make a ton of profit on alcohol. Alcohol is a huge profit center at restaurants. If I feel like I paid a very good price and I got a meal, I'm going to sit and have another drink. Yep. Or I'm going to get up from my Epcot and go get like a dessert or something from one of the food booths with another drink because I've got some extra money in my pocket. Or I'm going to go buy that merch, right? Like, the more people are happy because you gave them a stupid plate of like 3 mozzarella sticks on it or whatever an appetizer is at a Disney restaurant, you could go out and spend more money because you're happy. You don't feel like I have to get all that I want and I'm not giving Disney any more of my dollars. I think they got to reverse that. All right, so we're going to leave it there because I am tired talking about
food.
The dining plan. Never tired about food, but spending too much money on Disney food. It's only been 6 months and it still hurts me to my core right now. Anyway, that being said, did we leave anything? Oh, next week's DBC engagement. You picked this one out. So I
actually saw, and I'll give credit to them, the Diz Boards, their Facebook page. I think it was on Twitter too. They asked this question. I thought it was a good one. Just in the history of your life of going to Disney, any Disney park around the world, what's the best show or parade you ever saw at a Disney park? So it's kind of a simple question, but maybe people can ask, what's their best current one versus one historically, or best show and best parade or something like that. But just in general, looking back on all the
fireworks shows,
anything, fireworks show. It could be a fireworks show. It could be a stage show. It could be a parade. Any type of like live entertainment, for lack of a better word, not an attraction. What's the best thing you've ever seen at a Disney park?
Make sure you get on Discord and answer that. It's going to be starting Wednesday morning or afternoon, whenever I hit the alarm for that. And with that being said, thank you everybody for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on all forms of social media that you actually enjoy being on. And we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.